Number 5, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Along with The Little Drummer Boy, this movie is also made by Rankin Bass. And this is my most favorite out of all of them for a number of reasons. For starters, I thought the casting choices were marvelous, including Mickey Rooney as Kris Kringle and Fred Astaire as the narrator. Throughout the whole movie, this tells the origin story of Santa Claus. One of the characters that Kris reformed during the movie was Winter Warlock, and he held Kris in hostage, Kris's penguin sidekick, during the second journey. But Kris reformed him by giving him a toy train, which made him melt his icy appearance. And he did the same thing with other citizens too. I even like the songs in this movie because they have a good beat to them, especially with the one that Kris sings, "You put your one boot in front of the other." In conclusion, this movie is noteworthy, and while I don't believe in Santa Claus, I still like this movie, especially since this movie came out in 1990. Whether you're a fan of Rankin Bass or want to see a Christmas movie that has stop motion, I definitely recommend you watch it. Number 4, A Charlie Brown Christmas. In this movie, Charlie Brown complains about the overwhelming materialism that he sees among everyone during the Christmas season, and Lucy suggests that he becomes the director of this school Christmas play. Charlie Brown accepts that, but is in a frustrating struggle when an attempt to restore the proper spirit with a forlorn little fern Christmas tree fails. He needs Linus's help to help learn the meaning of Christmas. For starters, besides the story, I thought the casting for each Peanuts character was marvelous, especially Peter Robbins as Charlie Brown, Christopher Shea as Linus, and Tracy Stratford as Lucy. And I think the animation was great, especially since this was made in the 1960s. And this has a good message about the meaning of Christmas. Overall, this is a great Christmas classic, and I love Charlie Brown even today. And if you're a fan of Charlie Brown and want to see a Christmas special, I highly recommend you watch this. Number 3, Frosty the Snowman. This movie is another one of my favorite Rankin Bass movies. This movie stars Jimmy Durante as the main narrator and Jackie Vernon as Frosty the Snowman. In this movie, Frosty came to life because some kids found a magician's magic hat and put it on his head. But Professor Hinkle, the magician, he wanted his hat back and didn't even care that Frosty was alive. But luckily, the rabbit brought back the hat and gave it to Frosty so he can have a second chance to live. After Frosty got the hat, he had to go to the North Pole before he melts. When Frosty was locked up in a greenhouse and melted, Santa told Karen that Frosty was made out of Christmas snow and it could never disappear completely. And that's when Santa helped Karen rebuild Frosty the Snowman with the snow. And Santa told Hinkin that if he wrote an apology letter, he would give him a new hat. Besides the well-told and adventurous story, I thought the casting was wonderful, and I thought Frosty the Snowman song sung by Jimmy Durante, the 60 animation of this movie, and the likable characters. In conclusion, this was a great animated special, definitely one of Rankin Bass's finest movies, and one of the best animated Christmas movies, while Santa Claus is Coming to Town is my favorite stop-motion one. Number 2, The Grinch. There are 3 adaptations of The Grinch. The original one by Chuck Jones, the live-action 2001 with Jim Carrey, and the CGI remake by Illumination in 2018. I honestly think that all 3 of these Grinch movies are good. With all of these movies, they have the same exact plot with the Grinch, but each of them are different. like the animation with Illumination and the Chuck Jones one. Well, in the 2001, it was live action with Jim Carrey, and I thought all of these movies were funny on their own. While I haven't fully seen the Jim Carrey one, but I think it's a great movie overall. And I agree with many other people that this movie was really good, especially the other two Grinch movies. And the voice cast for each of them was great, especially the movie's version in each one of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, because they're so funny. I like the Illumination one because the carolers were singing to the Grinch, but he just kept walking away, trying to get to the store. And I thought that was hilarious. And while I do feel bad for Jim Carrey during the making of this film, and I'll provide a link in the description below if you want to know more about this, but I think all of these movies are good on their own. And I honestly can't pick which one I want to recommend the most because, so I recommend you go ahead and watch them. Now, before I get to my number one pick, I want to give a few honorable mentions. The Legend of Frosty the Snowman. It got beat out by the original Frosty the Snowman because I find the original more interesting than this one, but I still like it even though. The Cat in the Hat knows a lot about Christmas. While this movie is also good, but I'm going with many of the 90s, 60s, and a few 2000s one. This movie is from the 2000s, but I'm going with many of those for the 60s and 90s, as I said before. Mickey's Christmas Carol. It got beat out by A Nature Carol. Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. As I stated earlier, I thought this movie was good, and I want to pick at least one Home Alone movie, and that's the first one. Frozen 2. Same reasons as with Lost in New York. And my number one most favorite Christmas movie of all time is The Polar Express. I'm sure you guys knew this was coming, didn't you? This movie is about a boy who discovers a magical train called the Polar Express, which takes children all the way to the North Pole. First of all, I love the animation in this movie because the designs look so realistic. While I understand why some people think the graphics are a bit creepy, but in my eyes, I don't see it creepy. I find them more realistic, whether it be the humans, the locations, or the Polar Express train. Secondly, I thought the voice actors did a great job, including Tom Hanks, who played many characters, including the conductor. Thirdly, it has a nice message about believing, while it does have to do with Santa Claus, but I'll give it a pass because at least it has a good message in it. And lastly, this movie has one of the best Christmas songs in entire history, period, like the Hot Chocolate song and the traditional belief song during the ending credits. And if I had to pick a favorite scene from the movie, it's the Glacier Cloak scene, which I thought was pretty exciting and action-packed. As well as when the train slips on ice. In fact, many YouTubers make Henry from Thomas and Friends do that in a parody version of that. And well, it does kind of disappoint me that the kid characters don't have any names, but I can easily get past that, no problem. And all in all, this is a fantastic movie. I definitely give it a 10 out of 10 for the animation and the many other things I mentioned. And that was my top 12 favorite Christmas movies. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas special. Let me know in the comments section on which of these Christmas movies are your favorite. Do you agree with my list? Have you seen better, or do you have your own personal preference? And I'll make a New Year's video around the corner, and I hope you enjoyed my Advent Calendar shorts. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, everyone. See you in the next video. Bye bye.